Food. We think we know it, right? I mean, we eat it every single day. But behind every bite, every meal, there's this incredible hidden story that connects biology, history, and economics. So today, let's pull back the curtain and find out what's really on your plate.
It seems like such a simple question, doesn't it? But the answer? Well, the answer connects your kitchen to farms thousands of miles away, to ancient traditions, to these huge, complex global systems. We're going to follow that connection and see just where it leads.
All right, so let's start at square one, the absolute basics. Before food is about culture or flavor or anything else, it's about biology. It's literally the fuel that keeps us going. So what exactly is in that fuel?
Well, at the very heart of it all, you have these things called nutrients. Think of them as the tiny workers that do all the heavy lifting in our bodies. They're responsible for growth, for repair, for just keeping everything running smoothly. Nutrients are what give us energy, and we measure that energy in units called calories.
Now, you can basically split nutrients into two big groups. First up, you've got your macronutrients. These are the big players: carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and our bodies need a lot of them. Then on the other side, you have the micronutrients, like vitamins and minerals. They're just as crucial, but our bodies only need them in tiny trace amounts.
So what's the job description for these macros? Well, you can think of carbohydrates as your body's main power source. They're the quick energy that gets you through the day. Fats are more like the long-term energy reserve, but they also do this incredible job of protecting our organs and keeping us warm. And proteins? They're the construction crew, the literal building blocks for everything from our muscles to our skin.
Okay, so science class is over. We've covered the basics. Now let's see how all this science actually translates into the meals we eat every day. We're going from molecules to menus. You know, for most of human history, and for billions of people on Earth today, the foundation of their diet isn't some trendy superfood. It's good, old-fashioned grains. These simple, edible seeds are, by far, the most important food staples on the entire planet. They supply the bulk of the calories for most of the world's population.
And here they are, the big three. You've got wheat, which is the most widely planted grain in the world. It's the foundation for our breads, our pastas. Then there's rice, the daily staple for over half the people on Earth, especially in Asia. And then you've got corn, or maize, which isn't just a staple food in places like the Americas and Africa, but it's also a primary food source for livestock all over the globe.
Of course, life isn't all about grains. Our diets get a whole lot more interesting thanks to fruits. And what's really fascinating here is how much their variety is shaped by the climate. You know, those cold winters and temperate zones, that's what gives us things like apples and pears. The year-round warmth of the subtropics, that's perfect for oranges and lemons. And the intense heat and humidity of the tropics, well, that's where we get incredible fruits like bananas and mangoes.
And what about those all-important proteins, the body's builders? Well, the sources are incredibly diverse. A huge amount comes from meat, poultry, and fish, but it is absolutely not just about animal products. Plant-based sources like legumes, think beans and lentils, along with eggs and dairy, are totally essential protein sources for billions of people around the world.
But here's the thing. We don't just eat for fuel, do we? Food is so much more than that. It's woven deep into the fabric of our cultures and our lives. So now, let's shift gears from what we eat to why we eat it. What actually ends up on our plates is decided by this really complex web of influences. Yeah, we've already seen how geography and climate play a huge part, but that's just the beginning. What we can afford, what our ancestors have eaten for centuries, what our religion allows, and even our own personal ethics. It all comes together to create the diets we follow.
Religion is such a powerful example of this. In Jainism, the practice of nonviolence is so strict that followers avoid meat and even some root vegetables just to prevent harming tiny organisms in the soil. Jewish kashrut laws and Islamic dabiha laws give detailed rules for what foods are considered kosher or halal. And practices like the fast during Ramadan show that it's not just about what we eat, but when we eat too.
And food is always changing, always evolving, especially when people move around the world. I mean, get this. Chicken tikka masala may be one of the most famous Indian dishes out there. It was actually invented in Glasgow, Scotland by a Pakistani chef. It's just a perfect symbol of how cultures can blend together right on your plate.
The cultural rules go way beyond just the ingredients. This quote is a fantastic example of how table manners are completely relative. What's seen as polite in one culture, like slurping noodles in Japan to show you're enjoying them, could be seen as really rude somewhere else.
It just goes to show that the rituals around food can be just as important as the food itself.
Okay, so now let's zoom all the way out, from the individual plate to the entire planet. Because when we do that, we run smack into a staggering and honestly a deeply troubling paradox.
1 in 7. That's roughly how many people on our planet don't have enough to eat. According to the United Nations, the total number of undernourished people is over 1 billion. Just let that number sink in for a second.
And right on the heels of that devastating number comes the paradox. The world's farmers, they actually produce a surplus of food. There is more than enough to feed every single person on Earth. So this is not a problem of production.
So, that leads us to the most crucial question of all. If there's enough food to go around, why are so many people starving?
Well, the answer is incredibly complex, but it really boils down to two things: poverty and access. Resources like fertile land and money are just not distributed evenly. Crises like war or natural disasters can completely shatter a region's food supply overnight. At the end of the day, the food exists. The problem is that people either can't get to it or they simply can't afford it.
This is a massive challenge, there's no doubt about it, but it's not an impossible one. So let's just briefly look at the path forward and how we can start to tackle this global paradox.
The solutions really have to get at the root causes. That means things like economic aid, so small-scale farmers can get the technology they need to thrive. It means developing better tech, like seeds that can survive a drought or a flood. And it means building stronger infrastructure, better roads, better storage, so that the food we grow doesn't spoil before it can reach the people who desperately need it.
So as we've seen, that meal on your plate is so much more than just a meal. It's the final chapter of this vast, interconnected story. It's a story about biology, a story about culture and history, and a story about global economics, all rolled into one. Every single food choice we make is a small part of that global story. Your plate is your own personal connection to the entire world. So the real question is, what story do you want it to tell?